about 5 grottos here. So they're from Paleolithic, especially Mysterian culture, you know.
What did you?
Grottos.
Grottos from Paleolithic period. That means Surkhandarya, the territory of Surkhandarya has really antique history. And you know, archaeology is a very, very kind of very serious subject in history because, you know, why we need material, cultural material, proof, evidence. If we want to say something, we have to prove, you know. So the archaeology is this subject of history. So in this museum we have over 3,000 stone implements. There are various, diverse, microlith, nucleus and different sorts of stones which were in the past like weapons. And yeah, and all historical periods like Neolith, Enneolith, Mesolithic period, early iron, we have in our history. So we have all material findings from these.
Was Neanderthal man found near Boyson, was he?
Yes, yes, in Boyson.
Is the stream you're talking about the one where the sanatorium is now, that many people go there to take the water as well?
No,
Different one, okay.
Monkhona is it is in this area.
Ah, okay.
While Teshiktosh is in Upper Machai village, a very, very ethnographic village. Villages exist here. Teshiktosh, yes. And what I want to say, until the formation of Bactrian Empire in the past, these oases have already been settled. So if we look at the back history of Central Asian, regions, we have to mention that Surkhandarya, it was once a part of a very huge empire called Bactria. So about Bactria, the first and very reliable information we get from Avesta. Avesta, it's a holy book of Zoroastrianism. So in Avesta, Bactria is described as an independence, loose with its really big and developed city, Taramata. Taramata was the oldest name of Termez, which was located on the right bank of the Amudarya. So Taramata was a part of northern Bactrian state. So, but later in the 6th century BC, Bactria was invaded by Achaemenids, Persian Achaemenids, until Alexander the Great breaks all this state, automatically becoming emperor, king of kings. So, it's unbelievable, but Surkhandarya once was a part of Hellenistic country. Because Alexander, after himself, he remained a very huge historical period for us. We call it Hellenism. Seleucids, later Graeco-Bactrians reign existed, especially in this part of Uzbekistan nowadays, as well as Afghanistan, because Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and this.
When were the Bactrians? When was the Bactrian Empire? What time period?
Well, it's about 7th millennium, 7th, 6th centuries BC.
BC?
Yes, until Achaemenids, occupation.
Right.
Yeah,
And the Kushans?
Kushans were later, after Graeco-Bactrian state. Graeco-Bactrian state was collapsed by Saka tribes, northern nomadic tribes from the north. But later, within a short time, we had Kushans. Gushuan people, they were originally from Xinjiang, modern China, Persian-speaking people, but still there is a very big discussion about their ethnic origins. Some consider them ancient Turk tribes, while others just keep silence about that. So Kushans formed a really huge empire in this area in 135 BC. Especially Kushans, they expanded territory of their empire until north, southeast of India. And of course, Kushans are very attractive because they developed Buddhism. They ruled the country according to Poland. And after Kushmir, we had a lot of invasions and empires because of geographically and strategically favorable position of this country. And the last were Russians at the end of 19th and beginning of 20th centuries. And modern Termez, they started building this city in 1871 according to the contract between the Emir of Bukhara and Tsar of Russia. And of course, you know, great game reasons about great game. So between Tsarist Russia and Great Britain. So Termez, it had been the last point of Bukhara Emirate. And of course, the first relations with Russian Empire started earlier. The first Russian diplomats here appeared in 1675, you know. And so, you know, later everything changed. And what I want to say, modern Termez, it has no such ancient history.
Yeah.
The oldest complexes here are from the late 19th, early 20th centuries AD. In the Soviet times, still now, Termez is a completely military city. The reason why we could not develop tourism equal to Samarkand or Bukhara because of the war between Soviet Union and Afghanistan, which lasted 10 years. It negatively affected, you know, on the development of this industry. And of course, I can't say we are, how to say, we're trying to do our best. It's just 20 years we opened the Surkhandarya for international tourism. It's not a long time. And in the region, the climate is subcontinental, rapidly changing. But the Termez, it has very hot, dry weather. Because and less precipitation. It's 4 years we don't have snow here, and Afghanian wind. It comes very often. It's like a
With the dust.
Yes, with the dust. And what we have from natural resources, we are rich in natural gas. We have oil. We have coal deposits, marble.
You have oil?
Yes.
In which part of the region?
Jarkurgan, Kumkogan, Denau.
So
natural gas we have in Boysun. Of 3 largest coal deposits still located in this region. One is in Boysun, another one is Shargun in Sarıosya. Plus we have salt mines.
But are those resources currently being exploited? Gas extraction, oil extraction?
Yes. And agriculture based on irrigation is very advanced because of the climate. Yes. Do you have any questions, please?
Very clear to me.
I have a question, but it doesn't concern what you said. But just from a museography point of view, I noticed that there is no English interpretation. So, do you have any plans? The museum does have any plans to increase to create a set of informative panels or whatever in English for the international visitors?
We have website. We have a website of the museum in 3 languages.
Yeah,
Russian, English, and
when I'm here, I don't look at the website. I look
But
at the.
we've made QR code of the
Okay.
exhibit.
Okay.
See the 3 languages on the QR code.
Yeah.
The first was Ashoka in India, who gathered the council in the 3rd century BC. And the second king was Kanishka in the mid-2nd century AD. And especially missionary program starts
To
from
take on
Ashoka's
Buddhism
time.
as an official.
So this is 2nd, 4th centuries AD. It's a copy. Originally you can see in Art Studies Museum. It's closed museum for academic people.
In Tashkent.
In Tashkent. So this is a capital with the image of Akanthus. Akanthus doesn't grow in Central Asia. It grows in Greek islands. This is Greek influenced culture, architecture. That's original.
From Dal
That's a copy that is original.
How did it come from? Brought from Greece, or was it
No,
copied from
no.
Greece?
After the death of Alexander the Great, all Greeks and Macedonians who followed him, they remain in Bactria and Sogdiana.
Right. And they
Plus,
made.
after the death of Alexander, his general, one of his generals, whose name was Selevka, he became an emperor in Bactria. Selevka.
And you know that Alexander was married here in
His second
Bactria.
wife was Roxana.
Roxana
And
from
so Greeks ruled our state for about 130 years. It means Hellenism. They spread their own religions, beliefs, and
Architecture.
we copied something, So everything was developed in harmony. Bactrian, Gandharian, Greek, and so on. This jar is about 2,400 years.
Peter is checking barcodes. Do they work? Wow.
So this is also original. Two-tier statue of Buddha.
Okay.
Two-tier statue of Buddha. Here we can.
Try to open the
This
website.
scene from Buddha's life is called Jataka in Sanskrit language. So Jataka, on the first tier, you can see Buddha sitting in a lotus position on the leaves of acanthus. You see, acanthus, this is Greek style. And the same about cloves. So Buddha under the Bodhi tree. Bodhi tree is called divine tree by Buddhists because that was a tree where Shakyamuni, reached nirvana, keeping meditation for 40 days. And on the second tier, we can see Buddha again in lotus position, but behind you see acanth leaves. This is Greek again style, hollow on both sides. 5 devotees of Buddha. 2 are kneeling, others are standing behind, holding books. This is handmade work. The material is white stone, which we usually got from the mountains from this area. 2nd, 4th centuries AD original. And this is another jar, but a bit later, Kushan style, 2nd, 4th centuries AD. Dalvarzan Tepa. It's in the picture you can see Dalvarzan Tepa. We always invite volunteers and tourists to join us to do excavations.
Do you?
Yes, we have special
That's
programs for
interesting.
that.
Peter.
Immersion.
Peter.
And this is a statue of Buddha, originally discovered in Karatepa. Karatepa. It's in old Termez.
Yes, we went there.
Second,
Looks
fourth
interesting.
centuries AD. And in this picture, you can see a ceremonial hall of Karatepa Buddhist monastery, where Buddhists have really serious events.
The guy told us that courtyard in there, big events.
Excuse me, I have a quick question. I'm sorry, I've developed over there, but you just said that you mentioned that it's possible to invite tourists to go out into the field and participate in
Yes, yes.
Do you have a specific program for that people can see and say, okay, I want to come on November 16 to 20?
Yes, yes,
It's a specific program,
yes, yes,
and it's on your website.
yes.
Wow.
We jointly work with archaeologists.
Okay,
They
but
are willing to work with those who voluntarily
Sure.
assist us.
Okay, so and a program they can join is very specified by dates any particular
Yes,
year.
yes.
Do you work with a tour operator to help that happen? If someone's sitting in Edinburgh in
so
Scotland,
far I had independent
yes,
tourists
yes,
who were willing to join, and they did. They joined us
right.
to do some
So
sort
they
of.
contacted you through the internet
Yes,
and then
yes.
you made arrangements and then...
But being tour operator, we also used to use it, but not through museum, but through archaeologists directly.
Because archaeologists, it's different because some are really interested in doing excavations in Buddhist sites.
Of course.
While others say, no, I want some earlier
I'm
period.
just thinking if somebody's sitting in Chicago that happens to be interested in Buddhist sites and comes across this website.
Then we contact. We tell them the season of doing excavations,
Right.
exact season, because it's hot here.
Yes, yes.
And usually we do research either in April, that's spring,
Yes.
either in October,
Okay.
which when the
Otherwise,
weather
too
comes down.
No, I understand, but the same people in Chicago, if they say yes, we want to come, how do we get it organized? How do you respond
We
to them?
address to the university. We work with the university.
okay, great.
We work. So I contact about teachers.
Perfect.
Mr. Shaidul Live, for instance, nowadays he's working in Zarabog village in Kuhitai Mountains with Czech
Okay.
archaeologists.
That someone could package this thing.
Absolutely.
In May month, we will have Dvurechinski Oleg and Dvurechinskaya Nigora. They will come from Moscow and continue excavations in Uzundara, up in the mountains of Boysen.
But
There is a
this is
Hellenistic.
not a commercial thing. It's not. No one's really making money from that.
No one,
Volunteers.
Free labor for the archaeologists.
free labor. This is like, it's practice. And the second reason, some people who who nowadays have different jobs, but in the past they wanted to do some excavations. They were, they had dreams or some kinds of things.
We have a terminology for that in the industry called volunteerism.
Volunteerism.
Yes. So,
But people pay to go on these trips, you know, some of the, we just, you know, just thinking about it, can it be, or is it too complicated for you to make it, invite volunteer tour operators to maybe work with you, or is it a bit
never
more
ever tour operators of Uzbekistan experienced these tours.
Yes.
We started this here in Termez.
Okay, so it's a new thing.
We had few people. They came. They really came and did some excavations in Alexandria on the Oxus. We went to, let's say, Taletogora. There is another temple.
Just to have an idea of the nationalities of the people who came. From where? From Russia?
No, they were not Russians. They were Americans. I remember there was Spanish. There were two Spanish people. There was one from Switzerland. And
Japanese, I guess.
No,
Japanese?
No, we didn't have Japanese.
Yeah.
Japanese, they're very, strict about such things. They don't do volunteer works usually.
Okay, great, thank you.
They can invest, but with due respect as the museum, this is a capital discovered in Chingiz Tepe. In Old Termez, there is a very unique archaeological site which was researched for 25 years. We had French and Uzbek expedition. Maybe you heard about Pierre Leriche, very famous man, archaeologist from Louvre. So here we can clearly see Bodhisattva's image and a woman. By the way, Bactrian woman, she has typical hairdo peculiar to Bactrian ladies. So this is Bodhisattva. Look at the hairdo. It's completely Greek style. And the face is European. And clothes, it's half Bactrian, half Greek and Indian, Gandharian style. So this is kind of really unique finding for us. Handmade, white stonework. Well, this is Donatus statue. Donators were people who once visited Buddhist sites here. They were from India, they were from China and neighboring countries. So this man, look at his hairdo again, Greek influence, mustache is Indian, and face is local. Him we discovered in Dalvarzan Tepe, in a Buddhist monastery. Second, 4th centuries AD. They are both original.
Dalvers and Turtles.
Yes.
And this was from where?
Chingiz Tepe.
Okay.
I don't know why archaeologists call the site as Chingiz Tepe.
Okay.
No, Chingiz Tepe was long ago. So this is the most ancient bus stop in Central Asia. This is original. When they brought it in 2008, it was broken into 9 pieces. Then we restored it. It took us 3 years to restore it. Wow. Yes, 3rd century BC, discovered in Kurganzor, up in the mountains of Boysun. So imagine Hisar mountain system. It was like a border, frontiers between Sogdiana and Bactria. Kurganzor, Uzundara, iron gates. Probably heard about iron gates. They were all strategic fortresses, having customs inside to control Great Indian Road. It was a trade road coming from India, leading to Sogdiana through our mountains. So they controlled caravans there and back. And it was discovered inside of a customs office.
Sure.
Kurganzor.
Oh, wow. So customs said, no, you're not bringing your bathtub through this border.
No. Fortress had a customs office. So those
they could take a
soldiers,
bath.
They had to bath too.
So this is not for aristocrats, for soldiers.
it's for soldiers.
For aristocrats, they most probably have marble
And
made.
this is a unique finding.
I don't
By
think
the
so.
way,
That looks like clay.
it's
No,
clay.
for
It's
aristocrats.
ceramic.
Aristocrats had marble.
So if you go up and look at it, it doesn't have a bottom. Because inside of it, there was another container for food, for meal, for preserving. some sort of,
Double
and
bottom.
This is Muslim period, 11th, 17th centuries, but still they used pre-Islamic symbols. This is 4 elements in nature from Zoroastrianism, blooming, and this is snail on Buddha's head. If you ever saw Buddha statues, Buddha is depicted in a simple way, but having snail on head. There is even a story about it, So please have a look at the model of the walls. If you visit old Termez, you can see entrance gates. Probably you saw entrance gates restored, but I'm really sorry to say, as we saw everything with our eyes, that they, while they're restoring the gates, they copied out Hiva entrance gates. We were really disagree about that. We said, no, this is not peculiar to Termez. Make Termez entrance gates. So,
What did they copy? Which entrance?
Hiva.
Hiva.
You know Hiva in the north?
Yeah.
There were entrances in Hiva, entrance gates. So until 1221, Termez city, which had been a huge port city, which used to make trade via Amudarya. You know, in the past, Amudarya has to pass through the and we had good relationship with the Roman Empire, and we had trade with the Roman Empire.
Up the river.
Yes, of course. So why we discovered Roman inscriptions in the sites here? Because of that, you know. And once Termez had been a good provider of soap, asafoetida. Asafoetida used to come from India, and we used to export mercury also, boats and ships. So what I want to say, besides the dry road, trade road, we had Amudarya, very, very helpful for us. Yeah. So Termez function. Look, Samarkand. It's it's a big city in the center of Great Silk Road. The same about Bukhara, and there were capital cities of huge empires. But Termez, it was a city, but it was trade port city. We cannot compare it with those cities. But the territory of Termez had been big. 550 when Chinggis Khan was in Termez. 550 hectares. If from south you drive to the north, it takes about 3.5 kilometers one way. So from east to the west, yes, it's 2 kilometers. So that means a huge city. So existing from the first millennium BC up to 1221, Termez had its own role in the development of trade and development. It was a kind of transformation out of cultures, you know. So what I want to say, Juvaini Atamalik was a historian of Chinggis Khan's times. He gives clear information about Chinggis Khan's military marches from his birth time up to the death. And he says, 10 days Termezian people showed strong resistance against Mongols. But, you know, Chinggis Khan had really disciplined army, and he had huge army. So on the 11th day, the morning, at about 5 a.m., Chinggis Khan took control over the city and ordered to destroy it, to burn it. So very tiny population consisting of children and women, old people, they moved towards Surkhandarya. It's about 6 kilometers towards airport, modern airport. So the medieval Termez, second Termez, developed there. So port city, it was completely destructed. And the same about port. I mean, the function of port, it was just finished up to Amir Timur's period. So Amir Timur, the revival of port, again, it comes with Timur, Timurid times. But not so wide, like before. So this was like a model of one of the entrance gates of Termez city. Golden coin, it represents the image of Oksha. Oksha was the son of Poseidon, according to Greek mythology. The original coin is in the British Museum. It's very, very tiny. It's among the Oksha's treasure. And on our right-hand side, there is the name of Oksha in the Greek language. On the left side, there is the symbol of Kushan.
What is the Oksha's treasure?
Oksha's treasure, it was a golden treasure weighing 115 kilos. It was, it was discovered in the mountains, in our mountains, either on the territory of Sarosi or Uzun. But this treasure was kept in the Bukhara Emir's treasury. And so we don't know the exact reasons and why they took it to Russia. So from Russia, it was moved to Britain. It was it's in the British Museum.
Is it in the British Museum? Okay, fine. Wow.
And the world knows I mean, three big treasures from Central Asia. The first was from Balkh. Saryanidi, Victor Saryanidi, if you heard about him, he was Soviet archaeologist, but of Greek origin. So he was a lion of Asia. His nickname was the Lion of Asia. So he discovered 200 kilos of golden treasure in Afghanistan. Now it's in an archaeological museum in Kabul. If you remember when Talibs bombed the archaeological museum in Kabul, all the treasure was kept in the safely in the fonts of the museum. So they were, completely preserved as huge safes. To all those safes, there were 6 keys. They were in different countries of the world, in the hands of different people. So what I want to say, the second was Oxus treasure, the third Kushan treasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
The one at the Zelvers and Tetra.
Yes. So this is another jar, marble from Sultan Saud.
But you say only one treasure from Central Asia,
Three.
No, what are the second and third?
Second is Oxus. The first is from Afghanistan, Balkh. Second is Oxus treasure from us, and the third is Dalvar Zintepa.
The 36 kilograms.
And this is a marble, a piece of from marble grade, discovered in Sultan Saud. Here, 2 different types of Arabic letters, pieces from Surah, from Holy Quran, 11th, 17th centuries. And this is a very unique exhibit of our museum.
Where is this place?
No, that side is Chingiz Tepa.
Okay.
It's different. And this is Fayos Tepa,
Yeah.
archaeological site. So this is a sacred pond where Buddhists kept holy water for their religious rituals and ceremonies. It was discovered in the B section of the monastery, in the central part of it. So with the image of Griffin. Griffin, it's a mythical creature. As Bactrian legend says, they were guards of Bactrian treasure. But in the Greek mythology, you read that griffins were dogs of Zeus, protecting and guarding his throne. You see, transformation of cultures.
Same story, but differently interpreted.
And according to feet size, one can imagine huge-sized Buddhas once decorating our Buddha monasteries. This is again original from Fayos Tepa. Very detailed.
So that's the only piece that remains that could be found.
Yes. And this is a cornice with the image of Griffin. White stonework. 2nd, 4th centuries in So Fayos Tepa is the earliest Buddhist monastery ever built on the territory of Central Asia. And it gives us really unique findings like Buddha statues. So
From what time period was that?
this is from the beginning of the mid first up to 4th centuries AD. But the second time excavations, yes,
All Kushan.
yes. But the second time excavations, they gave us really different findings. We discovered Persian coins, and we discovered that this monastery was on fire, and unexpectedly it was stopped. So Tukhtash Anayev, now he's one of the leading archaeologists of Uzbekistan. He works here with us. So he did excavations in Fayos Tepa of elephant. Elephant is a vivid proof of our good relations with India. And of course, when everything started, we are really grateful to our past kings, Demetrius, one of the greatest Graeco-Bactrian kings. By the way, one of the names of Termez is related to Demetrius, Termez. It's one version. So he invaded India for 3 times. Even Alexander could not invade India, if you read history. So after the first conquest of India, a lot of Bactrian merchants started traveling towards India. So again, transformation of cultures. So according to Indian culture, elephant is the most powerful animal, and it's a legendary animal also. So this is Islamic period. If you notice, it has a lid. Before we had jars with no lids. If you remember, 11th, 17th centuries. We tried to cover the vessels filled with food according to the Sharia laws in order the food wouldn't become haram or unclean. because there are different poisonous insects, you know, besides saffron. And this is a, but in the picture you can see cultural layers of Alexandrian rocks. This site had been researched by Edward Vasilyevich, who was our teacher. He was our beloved teacher. He passed away 3 months ago.
And he launched this Great Silk Road conception. Yeah, Great Silk Road.
And so he did excavations for 48 years in Kampertepa. Nowadays there are controversial discussions are going on because, you know, after Tveladze, you know, it's hard to do excavations in that side. It's really hard.
Yeah.
At the Karatepa.
In Kampertepa.
Kampertepa.
Yes. And this is to, you know, it's a couple.
Oxiana now, they
If you
call it.
know the story of Buddha Shakyamuni,
Like Alexandria of Central Asia.
before
On the
he
bank of
left
the river.
the royal life, you know, he was a prince, right? Having a really luxurious life. So according to the legends, Buddha, after he left the palace, he was reincarnated for several times. So as Buddha, Bodhisattva, he was reincarnated for 5 times. Very young, beautiful prince, you know, having jewelry, having really beautiful headgear, you know, kind of hairstyles and garments, etc. So this is Bodhisattva, while Buddha is always depicted very simple, very, very simple. This is 1st century AD. By the way, Buddhist stupa, Zulmana, it's 14.5 meters. This is the oldest Buddhist stupa in Central Asia now.
And where is it?
It's in Old Termez.
Wow.
The infrastructure.
Apparently they say you have to walk quite far.
No, there is no road. There is no road up to the stupa. There is a cotton field, or sometimes there is a wheat field, and we usually look at it from distance. And maybe in near future, after Japanese will stop the excavations and their project, they will help us to make road until the stupa. Yeah.
When are they due to complete that work?
Because of pandemic situation, they're not coming. It's 3 years. We don't have a project going on.
So you don't know when it's supposed to finish?
And they were going to build an interpretation center at the Karatepa.
So, you know, a stupa, it's a divine house for Buddhists. This is a place where they usually go around reading mantras, keeping meditation. It's different because Hinayana and Mahayana, one considers stupa as a holy place, as a divine place, while for Mahayanas, there's more important Buddha statue, you know, it's different. So before pandemic situation, by the way, I have to say, I worked with Thai Buddhists, Sri Lanka Buddhists, and I had Burman Buddhists coming and doing pilgrimage. So we worked out a pilgrimage tour, special for Buddhists. If you look at my website, you can find it. Special only for Buddhists. So they spend hours, for instance, in Fayostapa. I can send you videos I shoot during. I never saw Thai Buddhists. Well, I had Japanese, Korean Buddhists, but they, you know, just bow and read something. While Thai Buddhists, they were from academia. They sat hours while I was sitting under the sunshine, waiting the finish. It was really interesting for me. So then I saw. Then I started studying Buddhism again, you know. So this is original, by the way. It would be nice if these sites will be conserved.
Sure.
Yes, we are losing them.
They say in the stupas there's always in religion that there's a relic of the Buddha. Some toenail or some nail or something like that.
You know, Buddha lived in the 6th century BC and he lived 81 years, not longer. And after his death, his body was cremated. But cremation was not complete. So some teeth and some piece of hair was remained. And his devotees, I mean students or someone took them, you know, while the rest, I mean the remnants were taken into the golden casket. For a long, long time until Ashoka built a huge stupa and inserted it into the stupa, it was kept by the, you know, students of devotees of Buddha. And nobody knows all those 2 teeth of Buddha. They came to Central Asia by missionaries. When Ashoka He started the missionary program, giving money to the Buddhists, saying, okay, if you go to Central Asia or if you go to Tarmita, please, I'm your donator. Maybe they brought those teas to Central Asia. They're in Balkh or in Termez, we don't know.
Of course.
Because archaeology, we still use very primitive ways of doing excavations. We never dig under the stupas. Maybe they're relics of their monks. Maybe any books, we don't know. No one knows. So truly. Yes. So this is entablement with the image of bodhisattvas inside of the arches and lions. By the way, lion, it's not a symbol of Iran or Persia here. Lions image we had in the Bronze Age. If you look at our symbols, stamps from Bronze Age, you will see lions exactly. Okay, this is acanthus. Entablement is a decoration on the facade.
Where is this site?
This is in Old Termez.
Okay.
It's behind Al-Hakimat Termez mausoleum.
Oh, on the
Defensive walls of Termez city. One jump over the walls, you get into the river Amudarya. This is a border area.
But there's now a fence that is, you can't go to this site.
There are soldiers watching
Okay.
every time.
Yeah, there was a question actually. Why did they put the fence before the site? What happened?
Because local people started walking on the archaeological site and destroying it. They were starting looking for anything to find and bring to the museum and earn money. And that was a legal way. And then archaeologists saw that destruction and said, okay, we will block the site. Now no one can go up. Just you can see from this of our teacher Kato. Next week we will widely celebrate 100th anniversary of Kato Kidzo in Termez. So this photo gallery was opened several years ago. 27 years of his life he spent in Termez, in Surkhandarya, doing excavations in the Buddhist sites of Kushan times. So he died in Termez at the age of 94. After his death, he opened this special exhibition and this photo gallery. Here you can see Kidzo Kato among archaeologists, with archaeologists, and it's.
They were saying that. They were saying that he had a theory that the Buddhism was founded here.
No. He, the reason why he appreciated this region, because Buddhism was widely spread from Termez, he traveled to China, owing to Kushan kings. And from China it went to Tibet. It went to Korea and Japan. And Japan was the last country to have
So,
Buddhism.
but this is what I said.
So
From
our
Termez.
school-
From
yes,
Termez.
Yes, from
Yeah,
Termez.
yeah.
That's true.
According to his theory, yes?
That
to,
is why.
To Kato,
yeah,
Dr. Kato.
It's true. It's true.
Right. The Buddhism wasn't born here, it was born in Nepal.
It was born as a philosophy in Nepal, in
In
India,
Nepal, exactly.
in Lumbini. But the first who started developing it was Ashoka in the 3rd century BC.
The first
But-
king to take, he
yes.
was converted.
Adopted,
into a-
yeah.
But Hinduism overcame Buddhism in India.
Yeah.
Slowly. It moved towards Central Asia. Afghanistan is also Central Asia, if we look historically. So it came to Afghanistan through Pakistan, Gandhara. Why Gandhara is a #1 place with iconography of Buddha? Because Gandharians were the first to create Buddha's images. Before, no one ever could afford himself to create that. So Gandharians made it. And then through Gandhara, Bamiyan. Why Bamiyan had a really huge statue of Buddha? Because from Ashoka, which was bombed, if you remember, in 1997. Yeah.
By
So,
Talibs.
if you ever go to Afghanistan, there is a district Sanmangan. I've been there. There is a huge Buddhist monastery with the caves, like in Karatapa. You can see. So when Xuanzang was here, Chinese traveler, by the way, he traveled all the way from China through Central Asia to India.
Yeah.
So he gives information, really valuable information about Buddhist sites, Buddhist monasteries existed. 632 he was in Central Asia, while Arabs came a bit later. Yes, and Xuanzang, we rely on Xuanzang's information about Buddhism. So he writes, he describes how Kushans raised Buddhism, how they did a lot of things. I mean, contribution in developing Buddhism, again, after so many centuries passed after Ashoka, and contribution of Kanishka the Great in that he started sending Buddhist professors to China with a group of diplomats. I mean, how we call them, envoys. Envoys. So he started sending mission like Buddhists, and the first was Dharmamitra, who went to China with Tipitakas at hand, and they really, that was a hard labor for them because no Buddhism. China had its own religions existing already, while Han Emperor assisted them. He built a huge Buddhist monastery in the mountains in China. So it's from 4th century. The earliest monastery still exists in China. And what I want to say, Professor Kato, when he was in Uzbekistan, for the first time it was in 1963. Times where, after World War II, we were slowly, raising economy and science again. And he fell in love with Uzbekistan, with the history of Silk Road.
And where was he from?
He was from Japan.
Yeah, this guy.
This guy.
Japanese. Well, here we can see Kato Kyudzo, Edward Vasil Tertveladze, Bahadur Turgunov. 3 of them passed away. And Pidaev Shokarjon. Now he is a director of Archaeological Institute in Tashkent. They were all friends.
Yeah.
But Kato Kyudzo was invited by Bahadur Turgunov because he was the first to participate in the excavations in Dalvarzintepe with Pugachenkova. They discovered golden treasure of Kushans in 1972.
Pugachenko.
Yes, there was a lady, Bilaeva, Tatiana. She discovered golden
So
treasure.
the gentleman in the blue shirt is the one you're talking about?
Yes, Kyudzo Kato.
And he's Japanese?
Japanese.
Oh, wow, okay.
He, he had a really interesting life. He was a part of Kwanton Army during World War II and was captured by Soviet, by Red Army and went to Siberia. 5 years he spent in Siberia where he learned Russian language. He was a good linguist. And going back to Japan, he became a journalist and then started traveling. He wrote a lot of books about Silk Road, about Buddhism. So if you are interested in his life, I published a book about him last year. Ministry of Tourism helped me to publish this book. Yeah, we were good friends with Kyudzo Kato. Okay. And here I just want to tell you the truth. Here, yes, here the exhibits, very tiny of them, were personal findings of Kyudzo Kato. Not all of them, I'm sorry. For instance, original statue, Buddha statue, this is a copy. It's in Tashkent, in State Museum of History. So it used to be in this main sanctuary of Fayos-Tepe, facing the stupa, right? So this was discovered in 1972 by Lev Israelevich Albaum, very famous archaeologist of Soviet times. While this one, a discovery from Karatepe, that's original on the right side, the Buddha statue. So there is a difference between them in 100 years.
Okay.
And look at the conditions in which...
So that was in the monastery, not someone told us it was on the side of the stupa.
No.
Not, okay.
Okay, let me explain the Fayos-Tepe now, if you have time. So, look. By the way, this is for the century. 1.5 hectares.
What time period?
First 4th century AD. So, entrance. It was built at the outskirts of Old Termez. It was not in the Old Termez, okay? So, entrance directly led to the stupa. So this is conserved, right? But originally there was a platform. We didn't destroy a platform, we just put some bricks upon it. And this is also a new, dome. Inside of it there is original stupa. So, monastery, 118 meters. Storage, kitchen, dining room, corridor to walk. So main sanctuary, religious part of the monastery, cells where Buddhists lived, monks of the higher rate, not simple people. So statue used to be here in the main sanctuary. Buddhists walking around the stupa, reading, praying, meditating, went down the stairs to come to the main sanctuary worship. Okay? So on the walls there were frescoes. And there was a tiny shed, you know, like with a tiny garden right in the middle. And this was an educational part, a lecturing hall, an altar existed here. They were auditoriums. And the original name of Fayoztepe was Kaya Vihara, which means a monastery with a stable. So this huge hall used to have place for, you know, animals, for something else. So Amudarya was the main source, water source. They've made aqueducts around the monastery. If you notice, you could see even kind of canalization with the pipes around the monastery.
How did they interrelate with the port and with the old Termez?
You know, the reason, you know, let me explain. Buddhists usually, and such kind of monasteries, they existed with the assistance of royal elite of the society, especially royal court, you know. They lived on donations. You know. So, Fayoztepe and then Shahristan part of Termez. Shahristan, it's a place, it's a part of a city where craftsmen as well as simple population, dockers who used to work for the port, they used to live. There was Rabat, that was the main commercial part of the city, with caravansarais, with hammams and bazaars. And fortress, it was main strategic part of Termez. So this was out of city, in a very quiet place, but close to the city. Now in Termez, you know, you see desert area. Because, you know,
Old Termez,
Old Termez, I mean. For many, many centuries, everything remained underneath. And thanks to you know, Tsar of Russia in 1890s, he made an order to send first expedition to study this area. You know, they were accompanied by local people, but official expedition started working by Strelkov, Alexander Semyonovich. They did excavations. They were from Moscow, Museum of Oriental.
Did they excavate the old city and this wasn't excavated by them, or was
No, this was excavated by Lefizraj Albaum. Of course, we call him Soviet archaeologist, but from Uzbekistan. He used to work in Art Studies Institute, a very, very famous archaeologist and specialist of Kushan times. You know. But he worked here 9 years. After his death, we stopped excavations for many, many years. And then Anaev and Pidaev did excavations. Now it's completely a research site.
Wow.
Yes.
Can I just ask a quick question about preservation of these sites, getting into the sites, and you know, people can walk on these walls. We walked on top of everything, and
That's true. That's a big problem here.
you know, and even we went up to the Fayoztepe, and is this the Fayoztepe?
Yes,
the Karatepe, the other one at the top. And we're walking like crazy around there, and which was fantastic for us, but it just felt like.
You knew you were doing the wrong thing.
And I think if more people come, if you start promoting these places, you know, what do you do when people start trampling all over the place? Is there something?
We are facing problems with local tourism nowadays because, I'm sorry, I just wanted to tell you before, but maybe it was out of our topic. You know, local tourists, we need more and more you know, explanations and lectures to give to the local tourists, because you know, for instance, I used to work with international tourists. They are already, you know, they have, you know, they traveled a lot. They have instructions and etc.
They follow rules.
But yes, but local people, you know, that's a big problem because we are really exhausted explaining them that it's
don't take anything from
yes,
the place.
it's prohibited to walk on the walls, and it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, they encouraged us.
They encouraged us to take
What I'm asking as a starting point, like,
Yeah,
get this
it's home.
somewhere at the end
Yeah.
of the
Piece of a jar.
So really,
What?
it was a final sign to say you will be persecuted or you will be.
We told that several times to the agency, to the Department of Preserving Cultural Sites here.
Do you have the real photo of the stupa until it is discovered? At least a photo. How did it look like the stupa?
Someone told me.
Excuse me?
Do you have the at least photo of the real stupa
Yes,
before
yes.
the covering?
Yes.
Where it is? Is it possible to see it right now?
But you can see real stupa inside even
Can I
now.
send you later? Because in my archives, I will find from the computer, I will
But
send
we
you.
saw,
But it's better to place over here somewhere. The stupa looks like that. It cover it later on.
Not far from the monastery, there is a building, if you notice, the red one. So it's a museum, and at the time, it is an institute on studying Buddhist legacy of Termez. So there you could see photos, I mean archives photos.
Actually, I have that photo in my previous small simple camera, but I kept somewhere. But
This is like an advice
should
to
be
put it
maybe
here,
they put
because we
as a
want to see it
picture,
right now
Otherwise, it
during your
that
explanation.
you are just explaining. I want to see the inside. How did
Okay.
it look like it? So,
yeah.
even now,
Yeah.
even now.
Anyway, so can we have a quick look at that Buddha? Because that is what you were showing should go up as the director was saying.
Yeah.
And this is the candidate to the brand,
You know, when
to
we
be on
call
the
it
brand.
triada, they said it's wrong because these devotees cannot be at the equal position like Buddha. That's why it's not good to call it triada. Okay? This is my advice to you
Okay.
as a scientist.
Not correct. Yeah.
So Buddha in lotus position, keeping meditation, it's Jataka again, under the Bodhi tree. The oldest and the best example of from Buddha's life, where he sits under the Bodhi tree. Nowhere they could find Buddha under the Bodhi tree, depicted so clearly and so beautifully. And of course, Bactrians, they never had seen Buddha, as Buddhism reached Termez or Tarmita later in the 2nd, 1st centuries BC. So we were good sculptors. We already had developed school here. So what we used Apollon, face of Apollon. So Apollon, like he was also a god from Greek mythology, but god of kindness, of so he was a symbol of kind heart, something like friendship and tolerance. So we used some elements from Apollon's image. Hairdo. This is peculiar to Buddha, but look at the style. This is Greek again. Curl.
What is the construction? Is that?
It's Marigali stone. It exists at the riverside of Amudarya.
Okay.
We use it. We used to have Marigali. So devotees of Buddha, like students, followers.
Okay.
They're waiting until the teacher opens eyes and starts speaking.
Wow.
It's interesting that Genghis Khan didn't destroy this place.
Well, all these places already were abandoned when Genghis Khan came. Genghis Khan mainly, his point of view was to the fortress of Termez. Where he wanted to capture aristocracy.
Yeah, so this didn't matter really. This was not.
But for this, I think not Genghis Khan, but Arabs were the main danger because they annihilated every human portrait or sculpture.
We can't blame Arabs in everything because after collapse of Kushan state, we had Sassanids, Persian Sassanids who were Zoroastrians. They started setting very high taxes to Buddhist monasteries. Slowly, Buddhist monasteries started closing.
Crumbling.
And partially functioning. And later we had Ephthalites. This is completely different dynasty. And then Turkish Khaganate. And then Arabs. So within this time, a century passed. So how we can blame Arabs?
Right.
Because Phayastepa was on fire during Persian times. We discovered a lot of burials in Fayos-Tepe, peculiar to Zoroastrians. It's not Arabs.
Yeah, I don't blame them
And what they
directly.
took, what they
Potentially.
did, they just took the Buddha statue from main sanctuary and throw it away. And archaeologists discovered it in different room.
Yeah, and
Not exactly
because
in the main
of
sanctuary.
these circumstances, it was saved. Either Genghis Khan or Arabs would destroy it if they would find it. Yeah.
Who knows?
Can't say anything.
We'll never know.
Right.
Oh,
Let's make a quick
They destroyed
excursion
every-
upstairs.
everything in India, in northern India. Mughals, they destroyed every face.
Okay. And etc.
Не можете сказать, самый древний художник, который вы обнаружили, к какому периоду относится вообще у вас здесь есть?
Третье тысячелетие.
Хумыш. Нашего винодела интересует хумыш.
Виноградные косточки находили, да только в другой части, где вот Шурчи, Козылча, с таких памятников. Но это уже железный век.
Ага, ну это уже позже.
Да, немножко позже.
Все равно неплохо.
Мало, не хватает.
А вот пшеницу мы нашли...
Железный век это сколько тысяч? Это сколько тысяч?
Это
Железный век
wait,
это сколько?
Bronze Age, Sopoli Tepa people were the first in Central Asia to start using clay for pottery and for town planning. So analog of this culture we don't have anywhere in Uzbekistan. Yes, there is Chust culture, but it's late, 2nd millennium BC. 8, labyrinth-shaped city, 8 fortifications, 8 communities lived here. And all of this pottery, you see, they have no analogs, I'm repeating you. Especially in the first exhibition. It's in the Muzrabots, in very bad condition. It was almost nothing to see. No empire, just cities existing on the traditional Bactria. Since this is the fire shrine. In the first exhibition, we have a burial of a 35-40-year-old woman. In the Bronze Age, Bactrians were fire worshippers. It's not Zoroastrianism. Maybe if we have time, then I can give you some information about this belief. So, this is again, you see astrologers playing games. And even now, people play games with this.
Bones.
Nickel bones. Very nice. This is early iron ore. When they discovered methods of taking iron out of soil, it was a sensation in our history because iron is a ready metal. Plus, it's very strong metal. Using iron, they started making tools for digging ditches and canals, artificial. Agriculture based on irrigation was formed. And the earliest, fragments of crops like wheat we discovered in our cities, But you see, pottery is roughly made. From 6th century BC, we had invasion from outside, Persian invasion. We go. This is the period of Alexander the Great and Hellenism. So the image we create according to the coins. It's not our fantasy. The only one coin of Alexander the Great in Central Asia was discovered in 1930. We have it in our museum. One single silver. It's discovered in one of the archaeological sites here. Yes. So Diado, Demetrius,
Is
Heliopolis.
this face taken from the coin?
Yes.
Okay.
And pottery peculiar to Greeks. That's Alexander from the
Geomorphology of these hills that next to the road, like sandy mud mountains when you drive.
Kum kurgan. Kum kurgan. Kum kurgan.
Sorry, can you repeat?
When you drive on the road
They're natural hills, you know.
Yeah, but what is it, like a sand or a mud or a
It's
sandstone?
mixture.
Is it a
It's
stone?
mixture. It's sand and clay, and you know they're impossible to use
For
the
agriculture.
soil for pottery
Okay.
and for town planning.
Ah, there you
They always used to bring soil from outside, from the mountains.
That's what they say, Raphael. That clay is not suitable for pottery.
So the walls were not done with local earth, with local soil. The soil was brought from other places.
From mountains. Local, but from mountains. Because in the mountains, if you notice, soil has more minerals, like iron, magnesium, you know, and it's stronger. You know.
And what about river? River also has mud.
Mud, but it's not good for pottery. No.
Not good for pottery.
This is Kushan times section. Great Kushan kings. Hirai. He was a founder of the kingdom.
Kushan as the Chinese that came after the Bactrian.
They spoke Persian language.
Okay.
So they're not Chinese.
They are not
We
Chinese.
cannot say. We
They're
cannot say.
Turkey people.
Turkey.
Turkey groups, ethnic groups. The European race. Donators.
From when is this?
This is Kushan, 1st century BC up to the end of 5th century
But the next exhibition, the fact that for
Culture.
every excavation area they are trying to get a small model, it's very, very nice.
AD. Warrior. This is Athens statues.
So Saint-Petersburg and
Yes.
Alexandria are the same place.
Yeah, the same place.
The same place. Okay.
You know, the name was changed in 2019.
Okay.
Before it was Kampertepa. And we had an international conference dedicated to the results of the scientific research. And during that conference, Edward Vasilievich Tviladze renamed it and announced the name as Alexandria on the Oxus. He considered that it had a kind of a layer from Alexander's times. It was a place where Alexander stops after the crossing of the river Amudarya. You know, while other archaeologists would disagree with this idea.
What is this Buddha here?
This is Athens.
Right.
Athens. Statue of Athens originally is in Tashkent. You know, when you look at the statues of Greek gods, you have to take into consideration the term localization. Localization, they have our faces, not Greek faces.
Like Lenin, in every republic of Soviet Union, it was looking like local.
Yes. That's a place from where golden treasure was discovered, Alvarez and Kepa.
This is really good. Do you have that in a soft copy form?
Yes, we have.
Wow, that'd be really, really helpful. But this is representing the trade routes, stroke silk road.
Yes.
In this area, yeah?
So
Detail.
down Termez there is Balkh, Mazar-e-Sharif, nearest Afghan city. It's 120 kilometers. Dushanbe is 250 kilometers. Tashkent is 700 kilometers. Please, if you can help us with the linguists, these Brahmin inscriptions are from Fayostepa Buddhist Monastery. We don't have translation as we don't have specialists.
Would you send that to me like this?
Yes? Okay.
Would you mind?
Stupa. If you close it takes the form of a stupa. Inside there is Buddha. On the right side there is a holy vessel, and on the left side there is praise like
Confiscated from whom?
from someone. They don't report
Thieves.
us. No, Afghanis who were having it in the luggage.
Ah, okay.
Afghanistan is a big treasure, you know. For the
Sure, it would be for me too. it's a little bit severe. Sorry for interrupting.
No. I just wanted to say that the exhibition was worked out by the specialists, archaeologists at the Timur Shirin from Samarkand, and the scientists from Academy of Sciences of Uzbekistan. So they worked on exhibition for 2 years. They created all this.
The archaeologists created this.
Yes, expedition.
Not the museum created.
No.
Curated.
What are they?
So this is the mausoleum right in the middle of the river. We have an island. No one exactly knows where the river, when the river was broken and that island appeared. Long time ago, many millions years ago, maybe. So the mausoleum is from 11th century. Now that natural area, it's preserved by Uzbekistan, 4,000 hectares, the area.
But you're not allowed to go to that area.
No, only scientists and military people, not tourists.
Military can go anywhere.
No, lots of, many archaeologists from Surkhandarya are trying their best to include the whole Termez into the list of the UNESCO. But they are refusing us, saying it's a military area. That's why this is a problem. And lots of monuments were destroyed on the treasure of Termez, and now they're building bazaars and some constructions in that historical area. Yeah, we cannot do anything because government, it's, some private business.
Where are they doing it? We went to the old Termez and to the mausoleum of the Sufi mausoleum.
If you see between mausoleum and Fayostepa, there is a big construction.
Yeah.
So they are on the treasure of old Termez. On both sides, they are creating so many new constructions. But our scientists are
Underneath
sick.
that, there will be a lot of things.
You dig meter, you find something.
Yeah.
Wow. Why we're enriching museum fund? Because every day someone brings us something.
Yeah.
2 days ago, a local man discovered golden coins of Seljukids. Now we went and working in his courtyard. We bought for 1 million soons 2 pieces of golden coin from Seljukid king. With the group, we went to his house and doing exhibition.
Did you compensate him somehow?
Yes, she's selling.
Selling.
What she finds.
Yeah, they bought for 1 million. They paid 1 million.
In the internet, you can read the article about it. So this is the cotton dress with a pair of socks discovered in Kurgan of Old Termez. This
cotton?
dress is from 6th century AD.
Wow.
As Ibn Battuta says, Termezian people always have cotton dresses because of the climate, and they always enjoy yogurt,
Yogurt.
And once Ibn Battuta went to the hammam in Termez, and then he was offered a big pitcher of yogurt, and then he started drinking it right in the hammam. When hammam man came down and saying, "Look, crazy, this is not for drinking, just put it on your head and shoulders and sit for a while. It protects from the sunshine." It's a good memory from Battuta. Developed villages. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 12th, 13th centuries. Khwarezm Shah was defeated by Chinggis Khan. So this period is up to Chinggis Khan's conquest. Jarkurgan minaret is the big brother of all minarets in Central Asia now. 1107, built by Seljuk King Sultan Sanjar. Mausoleum of Hakim at-Tirmizi. So this
And
is
that's here.
Mike, don't you see an affinity with Qutub Minar in Delhi? Shape.
yes.
Because all other minarets are round, in Uzbekistan. But this is like Qutub Minar,
Yeah,
yes?
it looks very much like the
And these are special terms for exporting mercury. Tiny ones.
So this is from the era of the Ottomans? Or
Of Seljuk King, Sultan Sanjar.
Okay, right.
Was it constructed before Qutub Minar historically?
Qutub Minar is
In
from,
Delhi, in Delhi.
From which century?
From the Mughals.
I don't know.
No,
but
later. This is earlier.
Yeah.
12th century.
In New Delhi.
Mughals are 13th century, I think.
Mughal from 15th, 16th.
Fifth, yes. They were ruling 300 years and British 200 years, so 500 years back.
Babur Mirza, who was the last Timurid, he created Mughal dynasty in India.
Yeah, Babur.
Babur, yes.
Yeah.
Babur was defeated by Muhammad Shaybani Khan, his own cousin.
Right.
From mom's side, Babur
Then he
was...
went over there
Yes.
and he became a big man there.
Chess figures.
Yeah, sure. Where is this from? Chessmen of
It's from our archaeological site in Kumkurgan.
Kurgan.
Yes.
Okay.
They're
Wow.
ceramic.
Yeah.
The board is new, the wooden.
Где нашли первые шахматы? В Самарканде или...
The earliest chess figures were discovered in Dalvarzin Tepa in 1972-73.
Where was that?
It's in Art Studies Institute closed museum.
Oh, so the
If you go
first
to
chess in
Tashkent-
Uzbekistan, you mean?
In Uzbekistan.
In that place where we were yesterday, Dalverzan Tepa, where the guy showed us
Yeah.
Kushan times, 2nd century.
Second century.
Yes.
were those part of the treasure or not? The treasure of Dalverzan Tepa?
No, it was a part.
That was gold and all of that, I suppose.
Dalvarzin Tepa, it's 50 hectares. Still a lot. This is 40 maidens, 40 girls' palace, a fortress. You know, no one can exactly say its function. 9th century building, but it was developed by, during Timur's times. Only one archaeologist who made drawings and said his own conclusion was Edward Vasilchur Tviladze. He said it was a residence, not a harem, not a kind of a caravanserai or hanaka. It was a special residence.
When we walked inside there was one place where people were hanging little cloths
Because
on the tree.
local people always believe in the legends,
Right.
And the name 40 girls, it comes from the story which Mr. Strelkov heard from the local people long time ago in 1923-24 when he was doing reconnaissance. Some ladies came down to him and started telling that story. And they said, okay, let's name this site as 40 girls.
But those things hanging from the tree.
It's, for a long time, this place, it's a holy place for girls who wanted a partner in life. Sometimes they bring some roosters and, they hold some rituals, believing. We have a term, Islamized traditions, which came and they existed before Islam, and then people converted to Islam and continuously started following the tradition, saying, okay, I'm Muslim, but let's do this also, and as an addition, like fire worshipping in the villages,
Are there any of the old caravanserais still around? I remember some years ago I was working in Azerbaijan, and we went to 2 or 3 places where the original caravanserai was still there and still operating, and someone converted one into a hotel, which was spectacularly beautiful. New door, of course, but are there any
in Surkhandarya?
Yes.
No, we don't have.
No.
We have ruins.
Anywhere else? Did you know?
In Uzbekistan, we have in Navoy, we have a lot in Bukhara, we have some in
In Bukhara
Samarkand.
city or outside?
In Old City,
Oh, okay.
yes,
All
a
right.
lot of them.
Okay. Thanks.
But in Surkhandarya, no.
Uh-huh.
I work as a guide all around the region. So we made statistics. If you give me time, we can discuss with my colleagues
don't.
because we made our own statistics.
Okay.
And then we made.
Why don't you send us what you can for, let's say, 5 years, which you will include before, during, and after the pandemic. If you wouldn't mind, you've got my address. Just whatever you've got, and we'll see what there is. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Thanks very much. Right.
Thank you so much. It was
You are a very good guide. Thank you.
Yeah,
so much.
brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant
Very quick
guide.
and to the point.
I'm sorry I can't share my books with everybody, but they're because they are for sale.
Okay.
Ministry of Tourism helped me
How much is
translate
your
it.
You can tell
No, it's for you. Others are for sale. And so. This is about museum in 3 languages. Because I don't have sponsors, I have to, work.
Of course.
Well, thank you so much. It was
Thank
really
you.
amazing.
Please come again.
Okay, thank you very much, man. Okay.
See you again. Have a nice day.
Вот этот прекрасный музей снаружи. Напротив парк. И вот какой портал. Шикарный музей. Спасибо. Шикарная экскурсия. Impression, Rafael, about the museum. Professional.
It was very interesting. First of all, it was very interesting to hear the story because it gave us a lot of context also for what you have seen. I mean, because the interpretation here of the different sites, we didn't have any interpretation, we just saw the ruins. So now we understand better what was behind those ruins, the stories, the different dominations, the different kingdoms, and so forth. So this is the bottom line.
And for excursions, you recommend to visit ruins first, yes, and after come here?
No, I would do the other way around. First get the information and then see on,
important.
Site. Yes, I would say so, because you would certainly understand better what you see on the field after you have this kind of interpretation.
Departure point is.
I have found also the exhibition design very good, because for all of the different sites that are presented, you have a proper maquette, so you can see how was the original building, all the artifacts that were found, plans, photographs. So that was also very good.
Satisfactory, yeah?
Yeah, very satisfactory. I think that there is a sort of I would say gap between the ground level and the first level. It seems that the presentation of the ground level is a little bit more old style, while the presentation of the first floor is more engaging, more contemporary. But of course we had a very good guide that gave us all the information. So very satisfied of the visit. Yes.
Thank you. And Mike, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree with Rafael. I think he said everything. It was really very interesting, and we had an excellent guide. She just gave us the full picture in a very short period, and it's a departure point for everyone coming here. Should come to this place first, to the Archaeological Museum, and then they can go and explore the sites with a lot of knowledge and context. So it's a great starting point.
So,
if I can add a little complaint, is the fact that on Sunday the museum was closed, so we couldn't, because our original plan was to start from there. So, but unfortunately, it was closed on
I
Sunday.
think they open on regular basis, but maybe because of Baisun festival.
I don't know.
All
I
resources
don't know.
were.
I don't know. We were unlucky. And
Yeah,
it
and
was
you have
closed.
your own experience, yeah.
No, if we had the visit before going actually to the sites, it would have been more. I mean, a better experience for us, because we already knew, so we understood the story of the stupa, the monastery, and for instance, for that particular site.
That could have been good, yes. The
But,
one thing
yeah.
I would say is that, and this is not a criticism, because what is there is already very good, but I think something like this can be enhanced through multimedia interpretation, the recreation of, a typical Kushan setup, for example. What would it be like, and what would life have been like there? Maybe some interviews with archaeologists, short, punchy interviews with people, saying how.
Yeah, 30-second video. With
Like
someone-
kiosk, yes, multimedia kiosk where you can choose some.
Or a little
meat.
small theater with a projector showing, and a couple of nice chairs there. So it's also a resting place when between the exhibits for people. This is a place where you should be spending at least half a day, I think, to really get the full value of it. We did it in an hour, which was because we had an excellent guide. But for someone going through and really wanting to embrace the full context, you should spend a few hours there. And it would be nice to have somewhere where you can sit down. Another thing is, I don't know, maybe they had that, but is to have a little kiosk where you can buy a drink or something, or sit down and have a coffee.
Great point.
You know, I think also even for the local market, they would really like that. So it would also draw people and make it a lively space where people will come, even if they've been there before, they'll come and have a coffee. Let's meet in the museum for a coffee, you know. And that gives a lot more visibility to the context of a museum being a very boring place.
And this is now quite normal in European museums to have this small museum coffee shop with a bookshop that sells not only museum stuff but also books on history and art and gadgets and you know, copies of I don't know, you can have your own Buddha and use it on your table to you know,
replica,
small replicas, you know, there's all merchandise that could be started from there, and this could take more advantage from also an economic point of view from the people coming to visit.
Of course, yes. Why don't they order some plastic replicas, like modern plastic, which looks like marble or clay?
There could be local craftsmen that could be engaged in doing this kind of work. So you. Without going to China to buy them, made local.
Value chain. It will create some value chain. So again. Archaeological museum is fantastic, yes, with all exponats,
absolutely,
but lacking what usually we lack: service and the extra offers like coffee, like souvenirs, like these multimedia experiences, which could prolong stay in the museum from 1 hour to half a day, like you say. So this is.
And bring people back, you know, to see it as something that is enjoyable and not just heavy learning, but an enjoyable experience, you know.
So it will significantly enhance engagement, yes, and immersive experience.
Not only the experience of the museum, but the experience of the whole region. Because, for instance, we as consultants, we did our homework before coming here, so we already knew where to go, where are the places and the sites and so forth. But if you come here, you didn't have the time to prepare properly. So you go there and then you decide, I want to see this, I want to see that, and you know, also as a living guidebook, I would say, for archaeology, religious places and so forth.
Speaking in Peter's terminology, we have to add living culture to that, like heritage,
yeah, that can also happen, you know.
Living culture experience through this engagement, through some technologies.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Rafael and Mike.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.